Welcome to Beyond the Template, the More Than Just Talk podcast. This week, as with the 5th episode, this episode is a special one. It will be more storytelling focused, connecting the concept of voice in creative work to make a positive change in our community and the world with the story of Hiroshi Yamauchi. Hello everyone, it's Caroline. We have a special episode this week. I can't believe we're already at episode 10. According to industry data, over 90% of new podcasts never make it past episode 3. And of that small number, only about 20% ever make it past episode 10. Apparently, the term for this is called pod fade, or when the initial enthusiasm is depleted over time by the weight of being required to create consistent episodes each week, and being surprised that podcasting is not just talking. That's the easiest part. The rest of it is writing, editing, scheduling, and promoting. Those are some wild statistics, and I think they reflect exactly what we talk about here, how continuing to pursue creativity is an act of defiance and rebellion in itself. You have to be the exception to the rule. You have to push against the odds so they don't push against you. And it is through perseverance that true creative mastery can occur. If you have been with me since the beginning, you know how grateful I am for you. I can promise you this, I will finish out this season. I always finish what I start. I even invested in some new equipment this week to help me explore my own voice. I'm not using it yet. I have to be honest with the move. I'm a little overwhelmed with learning new things and organizing my brain. But hopefully next week I will have played around with that a little bit more and we can maybe compare the difference. How about you? Is there a creative project you may have given up on too quickly because its intensity took you by surprise? How about a dream you left unfulfilled because too many hurdles got in your way? I hope this podcast helps you keep going with your work. This is what I've been talking about all along. Baby steps are still steps. It really is sometimes the only way to create. This message is shared in every single creative field, from writing to movie making to painting to podcasting. It's why I end each episode with, keep it up, keep it creative. Whatever that looks like for you this week, I am proud of you. Each episode, each imperfect draft, each quiet hour you spend on your craft, they all matter. Somewhere between repetition and pivoting, mastery begins to take shape. This is the line that so many visionaries have crossed. Today we will talk about one who crossed it and ended up changing the nature of play itself. Hiroshi Yamauchi wasn't a game designer or an engineer or even particularly interested in technology. He was a man who saw creativity as a structure for transformation. When he took over a small family card company in Japan, Nintendo was on the brink of irrelevance. By the time he stepped down, its name had become the global equivalency of imagination. His life is one of devotion, defiance, and creative persistence. The same quiet forces that keep us showing up week after week to make something out of nothing. Let's now journey into his story. There are people who build empires from blueprints, and there are others who build them from ghosts, from instinct, from the invisible pulse of a world not yet imagined. Hiroshi Yamauchi was the second kind. Born in 1927 in Kyoto, a city that never forgot its emperors, Yamauchi grew up surrounded by tradition, yet in terms of love and affection, he was orphaned. His father abandoned the family when he was young. His mother sent him away to live with his grandparents, who owned a small company that made playing cards. The company's name was Nintendo Koppai. It was not the Nintendo we know. This Nintendo made objects of beauty and chance. The cards were delicate, painted by hand and made for a game called Hanafuda, translating to flower cards. The duality of beauty and risk of these cards would serve as rooted concept for Yamauchi for the rest of his life. When his grandfather suffered a stroke in 1949, 21-year-old Yamauchi was pulled from his studies and told, unceremoniously, that he would now run the family business. Imagine showing up on his first day, with no experience and no training to command a room full of older men waiting to see him fail. On this day, Yamauchi did not smile and rarely would. Instead, he remained steady and in a clipped, calm voice told these men of his intentions, ending with, "If you don't like it, leave." They did. And then he began the slow rebuild of the company we revere today, from nothing and with no immediate allies. In the first years, Yamauchi developed a reputation of being so ruthless, some described him as cold. He closed the family's old factories, changed the company's name to Nintendo Company Limited, and began modernizing production. He was not sentimental about the past. He refused to carry the weight of it. He narrowly focused on the future, prioritizing innovation even over profit. Yamauchi was chasing after transformation. As with any great creative or innovative pursuit, he experimented and pivoted often. He began with plastic cards. He offered instant win toys. He even dabbled, for a brief awkward time, in a hotel chain. It's a good thing that none of these attempts stuck. What Yamauchi was actually searching for was something that could turn imagination into an economical endeavor. He was looking for something playful enough to enchant a child, yet powerful enough to build a world. In 1959, he made a deal with Disney to print characters like Mickey Mouse on Nintendo's cards. Overnight, Nintendo became a household name. For the first time, Japanese families saw play not as a luxury, but as culture. Still, Yamauchi knew it was temporary. The true game to be played had not yet begun. Then came the 1960s, the years which hummed with electricity. Japan was literally rebuilding itself during this time, with new wires and neon threading through its cities like veins of light and movement. Yamauchi was inspired. He could now visualize a future where toys could move, blink, and sing. So he began hiring engineers. Among them was a quiet, brilliant man named Gunpei Yokoi, who tinkered with machines on the factory floor. Yamauchi noticed him one day diligently working away, and that single moment would change the history of Nintendo and the definition of gaming. Yamauchi gave him free rein. Yokoi first invented small mechanical toys and then graduated to handheld gadgets. Yokoi called this lateral thinking with withered technology, or the art of using old tech in new, playful ways. This philosophy would spread throughout the company to eventually become Nintendo's DNA. By the 1970s, the once playing card turned toy company became something even stranger as it continued its curiosity with electronic joys. Yamauchi didn't play video games. He didn't even like them. But he did understand story, emotion, and the human need to play. When video arcades began booming, he turned Nintendo's attention toward the possibilities of pixels. Expanding on his success with Yokoi, Yamauchi hired more engineers. These were the first dreamers and artists of Nintendo. Among them was a shy, imaginative young man named Shigeru Miyamoto, who was obsessed with storytelling. Yamauchi saw something in him, the same spark he'd seen in Yokoi. He told Miyamoto, "Create something only you can create." And Miyamoto did. Donkey Kong, Super Mario, and Zelda. From that point on, Nintendo was not a company. It was a world-building universe. But even with these pivotal moments and streaks of ingenuity, Yamauchi never softened in his approach to leadership and business. He ruled with intuition, not consensus or appeasement. He was a sovereign. He made decisions alone, often without consulting his staff, trusting something deep and wordless inside of him. When the American video game industry crashed in 1983, Yamauchi didn't even flinch. Instead, he saw opportunity rising out of the wreckage. Instead of backing down, he greenlit the Famicom, the console in which the world would eventually know as the Family Computer Nintendo Entertainment System. It was bright, fun, simple, and cheap. a machine that promised adventure in every living room for every member of the household. Nintendo became synonymous with childhood wonder, but also as a crowd pleaser for all ages. Through the 1990s, as rivals obsessed over realism, Yamauchi stayed loyal to feeling. He believed games were not meant to imitate life, but to reflect its whimsy and magic. He refused movie tie-ins, violence for profit, or compromising with other giants. When Sony offered to partner on a CD console, he cut the deal mid-conversation, instinct overtaking the need for details. And from that decision, the PlayStation was born. Yamauchi wasn't competing with others. He wasn't afraid of losing. He was competing with his own expectations of excellence. He was afraid of losing meaning and edge. After more than 50 years at the helm, Yamauchi retired in 2002. During the time under his authority, Nintendo was transformed from a small card shop into one of the most beloved cultural forces on Earth. But this creative innovator never called himself an artist. Instead, he visioned himself more of a steward, strong, silent, dutiful, and dedicated to breathing life into mediocrity through imagination and forward thinking. He spent his last years quietly, playing Go, funding education, and watching from a distance as his protégés carried the torch. When he died in 2013, his net worth was over $2 billion. He left none of it to his children. Instead, he gave it back to Kyoto to build hospitals and schools. Mastery for Yamauchi was not perfection. It was devotion. The willingness to stand by your vision long enough for the world to finally see what you saw all along. Nintendo's logo means, "Leave luck to heaven." It's both a prayer and a challenge, and a reminder that once you've done the work, you must trust in something larger than control. Nintendo believes that when you play one of their games and allow yourself to be lost in the adventure, the vibrant colors, and the spark connecting humanity with technology, that you aren't just playing. Anyone who connects with the Nintendo legacy through the joy of play also touches the echo of one man's stubborn faith that joy itself is sacred. And maybe that truly is the not-so-secret of creative mastery. We aren't meant to compromise ourselves for or rule the world. We just need to protect its playfulness. Like Yamauchi, maybe your work isn't asking for perfection right now. Instead, maybe it's asking for slow burn devotion. His objectives were pretty clear. He wanted to offer the world something it needed, during a time it didn't even know it, which was both intimate and vast. Every console, every game, every reinvention of Nintendo began with one simple question. What could this become if I refuse to quit, and who is it for? So here's your challenge this week. Return to your own Nintendo moment. Pick one project, one creative dream that's been sitting on a shelf, and reconsider those objectives we have already discussed in episodes 7 and 8. Really evaluate how your work will impact the world and the purpose it serves. Who might it reach? What energy or change do you want it to bring? Then take one small, measurable action for your project, even if it's just a baby step. Maybe it's outlining an idea, recording a few sentences, or organizing your materials. All of that is perfect. When your work's objectives are connected to something bigger than you, and when they serve up meaning, even the smallest act supports your momentum. I sincerely appreciate each of you. Here's to all of us continuing, even when it feels like too much. Here's to deciding to keep putting ourselves out into the world so we can connect, collaborate, and create change. Here's to our community of makers and shakers. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Template. You're doing great. Keep it up. Keep it creative. My name is Caroline Amelie LeBeuf. I have a degree in art and in counseling, and also professional level certificates in educational advising and learning design and technology. Roles I have carried include illustrator, photographer, writer, traveler, mentor, instructor, and most recently, entrepreneur. If you are curious to learn further about the work I offer my clients, check out cameliedesigns.com. That's cameliedesigns.com.